Hello everybody, Philly Pipe Smoker here. Obviously not smoking a pipe. Just want to do another video today. Came to me after I finished my other one, which I'll post first and then I'll post this one second. Moved into my house about 8 years ago. And after moving in and talking to the neighbors, it was they told me that my house was a kit house. And they told me it was built in the early 1920s by the gentleman who owned it, Mr. Peck. And Mr. Peck lived till about 92 when he lived here in this house. In fact, I'm only, I think, the third owner, maybe the fourth owner of the house. And it's a really unique house. I guess these kit homes were manufactured. They pre-cut all the lumber, and I assume maybe labeled it or marked it somehow. And then they would put it on a railroad car, and the railroad car would then be shipped, in this case from Michigan, where this house was originally, the materials were put together. And then you would then unload the railroad car and move it somehow to your building site. So obviously to have a kit home in the 1920s, you had to live near a railroad. We do. It's called the main line. It's called the main line. Also, what they call our area, the main line. It was the main line running from Philadelphia out to the Philadelphia suburbs. Our particular stop would have been Haverford. And it intrigued me so much, I started doing some research on it. And I actually found the University of Michigan in their archives had all the information on this particular manufacturer. It's called Aladdin Kit Homes. Sears also had kit homes. And it's funny because in riding around the neighborhood, many of the homes in this area, you can tell, at least they have the same style of a kit home. I know one down the street, I know their owner, he's been there 50 years. And he said that his home was a Sears kit home. Obviously, he didn't build it, but so the two major companies were Aladdin and Sears. I guess Aladdin went out of business in the 1980s, so they were in business for many, many years, probably 70 years. And they donated all of their materials to University of Michigan, who scanned everything and put it online. So I can actually research my house. I contacted them, and they were able to find in the archives the actual sales receipt for my house to Mr. Peck, which is really cool to have. Anyway, I went online also and did some searches and found that there's some catalogs that are still in print. At least they were 5 or 6 years ago. And this one is called Small House of the 20s. And this is the from Sears. Obviously reprint, it says. But just to give you an idea of what the homes look like, there's one for $1,179. Go this way. There's another one, 6 rooms and a bath. That was $2,286. So there's many. There's a nice little bungalow style for $999. But in the Aladdin Kit Home, they pre-cut all the lumber so the waste was limited. They were able to in those days you could get whatever width board you wanted and pretty much whatever length. They would get 30, 40-foot length boards. So they were able to minimize the amount of waste. And what they claim is they passed that savings along to you. You would still build a foundation, which my house is a concrete foundation, and then you would take this lumber and build a house. My house is not without a couple of miscues that Mr. Peck, he messed up one of the stringers on the staircase, so it's a little creaky, but quite frankly, that's why I love the house. They originally had a coal, we have an old coal bin, and you could see where the coal fire furnace was, and they had one radiator in the living room, which the heat would go up and circulate through the house. I can imagine the bathrooms and the bedrooms are pretty darn cold in the morning, especially if your coal had run down. This is the 1917 catalog from Aladdin. Now, as I said, my house was built in the 20s, but this is the one that this is the only one I could find, and this was the one that actually had my house in it. And there it is. It's called the Yale. In 1917 was $934. I think it was just a little bit over $1,000 when my the person who built this, my house, built it. Maybe you can see the layout of the plans. It's a small house, obviously, and that's the way it would have looked when it was built. At the end of this, I'll try and put an outside shot of my house the way it looks today. Obviously, in the 1980s, the craze was to use vinyl siding over everything. And you can see that some salesmen went up our block, and a whole bunch of houses have this really ugly looking vinyl siding. So the picture, if I can get in here, will show the house as it sits today. I would love at some point to strip all that siding off and bring it back to the original grandeur of the house. But just wanted to share that with you guys. It's a house that I love. I'm sitting in a 2-car garage that he built at some point, and it was with reclaimed lumber from either a barn building or another building maybe in the area. The main beam that I'm looking in the garage actually has big, huge tenons cut in it, which leads me to believe maybe it was a barn building. So you can imagine a tenon being maybe a foot long and 4 inches wide. It was a pretty big board that went into that. Maybe a 6 or 8-inch by 14-inch beam of some sort was cut into that tenon. Some of the boards on the outside of my house, or outside of my garage, are 14, 16, 18 inches wide. You can't even buy lumber like that today. So I think my house and my garage is worth more in dismantled than it is actually the way it sits. But I love it. My family loves it. It's comfortable. It's cozy. We obviously have a more modern heating system in it now. But just wanted to share that with you guys. Thanks, and all the best.